And speaking of getting back, the New York Rangers earlier today have acquired Tyler Motte. He's back, baby, for Julien Gauthier and a conditional seventh round pick that could become a sixth round pick, aka pretty insignificant. But we get a bona fide, very good fourth line player that, honestly, as well as the top nine has been playing lately, this team desperately needs a quality fourth liner such as Tyler Motte. We all know what he brought to the team last year. Speedy forward, hardworking, which is and just honestly a quality fourth line forward. Yeah, Tyler Motte is back. I'm very happy. Another W for Chris Drury. Liam, come on. I know you got something to say here. I know you're happy.
Tyler Motte is back, baby. I'm excited. I mean, he's probably one of the best depth wingers that the Rangers have acquired at the trade deadline in quite a while, over the last few years. And he made quite an impact, during that entire playoff run. He brings ton of speed and energy to the fourth line. And I just think, he's not so much better of a player than Julien Gauthier. Don't get me wrong. He's better than Gauthier is. I just think he's so much of a better fit on the Rangers and so much more of a better fit on a team's fourth line. And I
Yeah, I
think
was
when it
honest.
comes down to when the third line, isn't on their A game, like the kid line, Zibanejad and Kreider potentially having off nights, Panarin, who is sometimes invisible from time to time, when Tyler Mott is on the ice, and he can kind of wreak havoc and provide an impact, and positive trajectory to your team on your fourth line, that's really key. And to give up a seventh round pick, that's pretty much nothing. Conditional could turn into a sixth, I believe. And Julien Gauthier, and, Gauthier is a player that you stuck to, you committed to for a long time. Sent them between the AHL and the NHL. Former first round pick, of course, former prospect with the Carolina Hurricanes as well. And look, he proved himself to be a capable NHL player, and it was enough in return to the Ottawa Senators to get a player that the Rangers really needed back into their lineup after a strong playoff.
So in the case of Tyler Mott, it was a guy that Drury traded for at the deadline last season, let walk in the offseason when he should have been re-signed. That's another offseason Drury L. That's starting to become a theme now. Anything outside of the draft, which is all to be determined so far. But he reconciled for that by bringing him back. And I don't remember if I just said this, but I was surprised. I'm not surprised that Gauthier was traded to begin with, but I was surprised that he was involved in this trade.
Right. I wasn't really surprised Gauthier was traded, to be honest. He was getting a lot of playing time on the fourth line that he wasn't really getting early in the season, and it kind of confused me, because, I've always thought Gauthier is a good enough fourth line player. I just don't know why the Rangers were committed now, as opposed to before. And obviously now we know why. They were trying to showcase him and show other teams that, this guy can play. And if we can acquire a depth piece, we wouldn't mind giving him up, in addition to a late round draft pick. And that's exactly what happened with this trade. And Tyler Mott, I think, is the ideal bottom six player to go out and grab. If you're Chris Drury, should he have been re-signed in the offseason? Yes, but I think that the trade deadline cap space and the cap space that they had at the offseason at the time, are not the same. They have a little bit more flexibility now than they did then. But with that said, that doesn't mean that the Rangers didn't make a mistake in not making re-signing him a priority. I think he should have been re-signed before Trocheck was signed, to be honest with you. I think when you got to look at your Stanley Cup run, fine. You don't want to call it a Stanley Cup run. You got to look at your long playoff run, where you took the, eventual, Stanley Cup runner up and the Stanley Cup champion 2 out of the last 3 years to, 6 games and had a 2 games to none lead on them. You have to bring back every single player that was instrumental to your success. And the Rangers failed to do that in the offseason in Chris Drury. But they reconcile for that now. And you know what? With Tarasenko, who looks really good, by the way, with Kreider and Zibanejad, and Tyler Mott back to this fourth line. Even if you have to give up Gauthier, I think the Rangers got a lot better today, and that's all that matters.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Another,
Can't change the past now.
we can't change the past, but we go from what was technically an off-season L from Drury to another mid-season trade W, which it's just
Yes.
freaking fascinating. It really is fascinating. We're going to look back at this as Chris Drury's tenure as GM, and we're just going to be like, dude, what the hell happened those first two off seasons?
Right. And you sent me a player card today, a Barkley Goudreau, and it didn't look too good.
It was,
It's
yeah,
another
it was not
really,
good.
and Barkley Goudreau is one of those players that, maybe his advanced analytics might not show it, but wherever he's been, Shades, he's been praised by his coaches, and John Cooper, if you ask any NHL fan around the league who are the top 5 coaches in the NHL, John Cooper, I think, is consistently named in that answer. And he loves and he praises Barkley Goudreau and his impact as to why the Tampa Bay Lightning won 2 out of the last 3 Stanley Cups. So, you know, I think he holds value. But again, the advanced analytics don't show it. But Gallant loves him. Cooper loved him. You go back to San Jose. I forgot who was coaching back then. Maybe Todd McClellan. I believe loved him as well. So just wanted to put that out there. But I know you don't like the contract.
I mean, I don't. But
Hard.
we've done we've talked about that enough. But what was that?
I said for Tyler Motte, he's got a good contract. So
Love me some Tyler Motte. But like we said after the last trade the Rangers made, the Rangers are a better team now than they were yesterday.
that is true.